Question for you. Yeah. So I know various parties. They've already done it.
Yep, canvas on Thursday.
Is that a good research?
No, it was.
Minutes.
We're going to have a board meeting this week. We're going to Huh? Why are we signing people up? Because we got a product that people want.
What I mean is, how do we sell it? How do they go?
You can't put it up.
Slide, you just can't let go.
We're okay to start. We'll have everything in here.
All right, good morning. Welcome to the Tuesday, March 19th, 2024 Tarrant County Commissioners Court meeting. I now call the meeting to order.
Tim O'Hare, County Judge.
Present.
Roy Charles Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1.
Present.
Elisa Simmons, Commissioner Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Vickus, Commissioner Precinct 3.
Here.
Manny Ramirez, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constance Swan.
Thank you. Today's invocation will be led by Pastor Dave Young from Light of the World Church in Fort Worth. Please rise for the invocation and pledges of allegiance. Thank you for being here, Pastor.
Glad to be here.
Hey, Dave.
Good to see you. Heavenly Father, we come to you today grateful for all of your many blessings. We know every good and perfect gift comes from you. And we thank you, Lord, for this great nation that we live in and for the opportunity for citizens to be a part of the process of governing. So we thank you for all the citizens that are here today to express their thoughts and opinions. We thank you for this great state of Texas that we live in and for this county. We know, Lord, that we stand out as unique and different than many other counties. And we ask that you would be with our Commissioners Court today as they lead us forward. We pray that you would give them wisdom and discernment in all of the decisions that they must make. And today, Lord, we also want to lift up all first responders, for we know that every day they put their lives on the line for us. And so we ask for your protection and care for them. And we pray all of this as we ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. You may be seated. All right, some agenda announcements.
Yes, full of announcements really quick here. We have two items that we're going to hold for a later meeting. Those items are D1 and I13.
Are both of those consent?
Those are both consent, but we're not pulling them from consent. We're going to hold them until a later meeting.
Okay.
And then we have several items that have been pulled from the consent agenda under the administrator section, A3 through A6. So A3, A4, A5, and A6. C3, D5, H2, and K2.
Okay, A3, 4, 5, 6, C3, D5, H2, and K2 all pulled off consent. D1 and I13 not being voted on today.
That's correct.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir. All right, Commissioners Court. Do we have any announcements?
Yes. I would like to thank so many people for their support of the Precinct 2 Kidney Wellness event that happened a couple of Saturdays ago. And it was a spectacular success. We had over 300 people participate. We also had, we were able to do 100 kidney wellness screenings. And so I count that a success. Wanted to thank, I left my list on my desk, so I probably should not attempt this, but wanted to thank in particular facilities, Mr. Amador and his team. They were fantastic. what we did not go off-site. We turned the Arlington Sub Courthouse into a health fair. And so facilities was fantastic in helping us get that done. Also, our graphics department, IT, communications, just all of the county departments that worked with us to get that done. So, and thank you to our very generous sponsors, and our champion sponsor was JPS. So I'll leave it there because I will leave off a lot of folks, but so glad we were able to get people screened and folks identified that might have a problem with kidney disease. So that's it.
All right, any other announcements?
I guess so.
All right.
While touring the Moncrief Cancer Institute's mobile mammography unit, which is parked at the west curb, I spoke with Dr. Keith Hargenbright, and he gave me the numbers from the 10th annual Healthy Lives Matter prostate cancer education and screening event. We screened 283 men with PSAs. Of that 283 men, 19 were found to have indicators that they needed more study, more testing, perhaps treatment. We won't know until we get them into the investigative process. But 19 out of 283 is a significant number. And we hope that the activities on that day helped save the lives of 19 men at least. So we are grateful for the success of that event.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Brooks. All right, if there are no other Commissioner Court announcements, we move to the Proclamations section. We have some state champions here with us today from Martin High School in Arlington. The boys wrestling team won the state championship this year, and let's give them a big round of applause. Joining us today is the head coach, Patrick Dunn, assistant coaches Tito Valtine and Scott Trussell, and wrestlers Ryan Rainey and Finn Shepard. What an incredible accomplishment. We have a proclamation. We'll ask you to come up and receive it here in a minute. This is a proclamation from Tarrant County. The Martin High School Warriors boys wrestling team has demonstrated exemplary skill and effort during the 2023-24 season. Their commitment to excellence has showcased their resilience, determination, and indomitable spirit. Years of hard work, training, and dedication has delivered a victory for the Martin High School Warriors at the Texas 6A UIL Boys Wrestling State Championship. The Warriors boys wrestling team triumph gave the district its first state title since 2015. The Martin High School boys wrestling team has brought great pride to Martin High School, the city of Arlington, and Tarrant County, and we celebrate this extraordinary athletic achievement. Be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, do hereby proclaim that March 19th, 2024 shall be observed in Tarrant County as Martin High School Boys Wrestling State Champions Day, and we encourage the citizens of Tarrant County to acknowledge and congratulate Martin High School on this amazing accomplishment. So thank you all very much. We're proud of you. Come down here. Commissioner Ramirez has volunteered to come wrestle one of these gentlemen. here.
I'm ready.
Awesome. Yeah, very proud of you guys. Phenomenal. Okay, thanks again. Thanks, sir. Thank you. All right, I'll move that we receive and file that proclamation.
Second.
Please cast your votes. Okay, fantastic. Thank you for being here. What an incredible accomplishment that is. We're now going to celebrate another accomplishment, and this is a proclamation in recognition of Gatorade's cross-country runner of the year, Caden Leonard. Caden, welcome. So joining Caden is also his parents, some friends, and the athletic director for Carroll ISD, Steve Kiesler. We are thankful to have all of you here. Let me read your proclamation. Caden Leonard has demonstrated extraordinary skill, effort, athletic ability, and displayed exemplary character in the Carroll ISD Dragon Cross Country Athletic Program. Caden Leonard won the Class 6A individual state title and went on to help the Dragons to the 6A state championship. Years of hard work, training, and dedication have resulted in Caden Leonard being named Gatorade's best cross-country runner in Texas for 2024. Caden embodies Gatorade's 2024 slogan, "Win from Within," through both his athletic accomplishments and his selfless volunteerism within the Southlake community, including his participation with the Young Men's Service League, Southlake Special Olympics, and involvement with the youth ministry at White's Chapel United Methodist Church. Caden Leonard has brought great pride to Carroll ISD, the city of Southlake, and Tarrant County, and we celebrate this tremendous athletic achievement. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the Tarrant County Commissioners Court, do hereby proclaim that March 19th, 2024 shall be observed in Tarrant County as a day of recognition for Caden Leonard as Gatorade's cross-country runner of the year, and we encourage the citizens of Tarrant County to acknowledge and congratulate our own Caden Leonard as we celebrate with him. So I'm going to ask all of you to come on up. Appreciate you down here. And awesome. Good luck. Cheers. Yes.
Thanks very much. Appreciate you.
So Caden won the state title this year. What's amazing is he's a sophomore. So pretty impressive, yeah. All right, I will move to receive and file that proclamation.
Second.
All right, please cast your votes. All right, passes unanimously. Now we move to the consent agenda as amended. Do we have any questions, comments, or a motion on the amended consent agenda?
Move for approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the amended consent agenda. Any discussion? All right, please cast your vote. All right, passes unanimously. Now, we're going to move to, let's see here. It will be 9A, a public hearing to consider the draft program year 2024 annual action plan in community development.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi.
As part of the federal process for the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, we're here today to hear any public comments regarding the draft 2024 action plan. This details how we will spend our HUD funds. Almost half will replace aging infrastructure, with remaining on housing, public services, and supporting homeless agencies.
Thank you. All right, the public hearing is now open. I have one person signed up to speak, Lon Burnham. I'll call for anyone else that wants to speak on this afterwards.
Good morning, everybody. Hope you're well. I just wanted to remind Commissioner Simmons about her town hall meeting where I spoke on this issue and concern. This county has done way too little with regards to allocating funds to address the homeless problem. And there's been a lot of opportunity for creativity that simply has not been there. My objection to this plan is not that we don't need a plan. I've got a graduate degree in planning. I believe in planning. But this plan is totally inadequate as far as the money allocated to addressing one of the most serious problems that we have in this county. And in case you have missed the connecting of the dots over the last 15 months that three of you have been on the Commissioner's Court, our homeless problem is directly connected to our jail problem, which is directly related to our excessive death problem in our jail. We need to be putting more money into addressing this problem. We need to be more creative. There's a lot of creative programs going on all over the country that rather than put the money into homelessness as you could have and didn't, you reallocated that money for jails, which is the problem. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone else who would wish to speak to this item? Coming up, Mr. Bennett.
Good morning, Commissioners. Daniel Bennett, White Settlement. I want to talk to you about Lisa Simmons' town hall. First, I want to thank you. It was really informative. I took a full slate of notes. I wrote down what I thought was important. There's a 5,000 family waiting list or single individual waiting list since 2017 for housing.
Yes.
Now I can go down on everything that was said there between Arlington, the Police Department of Arlington, and the Housing Authority. I won't bore you with details. But the most poignant crystallization that evening, Ms. Simmons asked, what can I do to fix the problem? We had 5 panelists, no responses. There's nothing she can do. So we just keep throwing money after money after money. We don't fix anything. So I was driving home that night. I thought to myself, how are you going to fix this? I think I got a solution. And I've been out of the tax code business since 2006. But I was driving home, and this segues into your trip to Tampa from the 12th to the 16th. You're spending $77.67 or something like that. I don't know. I remember the number. And you're taking Jason, Gabe, Nathan, and yourself. And one of the things is to address how federal policy affects the county level. Well, here's a policy that could potentially ease the burden of our homeless population. It's change tax code. Now, it's ordinary income when you get rent. So there's probably 2 things you can do. One, the voucher itself is tax exempt. I think if you had tax exempt income coming into property owners, they would actually be competing for those that are less fortunate because they get a bigger voucher. So the people at the bottom now will be getting aid. The ones at the higher end that are right on that cusp, either 10% gross income or 30% adjusted income under the federal rules, would be less desirable. So we will be taking care of the lower echelon, working our way up the food chain, not down the food chain. That's one way. The other way is they go ahead and make the rent that that individual pays and the voucher program all tax exempt. I think people will be lining up with properties because your inventory, I think you said, there's a shortage of inventory. There's a 3% vacancy rate in Tarrant County. So I think the fix is at the federal level. So when you go down to Tampa, I would like you to discuss this with those individuals that want to solve things and not just throw money at things. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Art. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this item? All right, seeing none, I'll move to close the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Any discussion? All right, please cast your vote. All right, the public hearing is now closed. All right, next up, we have under the administrator section, out-of-state travel requests. Do we have a motion to approve that or questions? All right.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the out-of-state travel requests. Any discussion? All right, please cast your vote. Why are all these wires here?
Judge,
Yeah.
there's an audience participation form for this.
On
item.
that?
Yes, sir.
Judge, I've asked, I wanted to combine the two, the public hearing and the out-of-state travel stuff.
Gotcha, okay. Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the out-of-state travel requests. If no discussion, please cast your vote. All right, passes unanimously. Next, we move to, from consent, items 10A, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we'll start with number 3.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So all 4 of these items are somewhat related to each other, but we'll start with the first one. So we are asking for your consideration for a contract renewal between Tarrant County and MHMR of Tarrant County for rehabilitative alternative for probationers and parolees, also known as the RAP program services for fiscal year 2024.
Move approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve. I am going through this here. We have some speakers. Any questions for Megan before we get to speakers? Okay. Our first speaker is Doreen Geiger. Following Ms. Geiger is Geraldine Jackie Cox.
Good morning. According to an open records request from HHSC, last year there were over 15,000 people with mental health issues and/or intellectual developmental disabilities booked into the Tarrant County Jail. This translates to an average of 1,632 people who had a history of receiving mental health services within the last 3 years. Police departments in Tarrant County need to take more people who committed nonviolent, low-level offenses and have mental health and/or IDD disabilities to the jail diversion center instead of jail. Tarrant County needs to clarify that enough alternatives do not exist. Tarrant County went to the legislature to ask for their own state hospital, but did not receive funding for it. Now is the opportunity to build the case with data. If you research, you will find these residential models do not exist. Many individuals do not need a hospital, but they do need supervised, structured housing that is not a jail cell. Identify what a person needs and acknowledge and document it. Is this something that already exists or something that needs to be created? Regarding residential settings, many people would choose a campus setting, intentional community, but this is not offered as an option. The hospital district should be collecting similar data to what the jail criminal legal system should be collecting. Are we discharging, releasing people to the streets or to other inappropriate settings? Many people end up in jail simply because there is no place to go when they do meet administrative criteria for a mental health facility, such as danger to self or others. What are the options? Will the diversion center take them? Will the ER? Will the mental health facility? Please document so that we can all ask for more funding sources for those individuals who do not really belong in jail. Thank you.
Thank you. Following Ms. Cox, we have Merle Glasscock.
you. Yeah,
I know it's
thanks so
coming.
much. Appreciate it. Once again, I bring you a handout. Happy Equinox Day. I'm here to address what I regard to be a sort of shockingly low $64,000 appropriation for paying MHMR to provide behavioral and health and intellectual disability services through the RAAP program. This is to reduce recidivism among persons who are released on parole or probation. When you get out of TDCJ, they give you $100, and that's all. And you have to buy a bus ticket back to Fort Worth out of it, and you've no place to go unless you have family here to take you. So you're among the homeless on the street, and what you're proposing to provide for this population, if they are disabled, is a $64,500 diagnostic services and social services contract. How many of these people are there likely to be? TDCJ publishes their number of releases by county, and a release is you're out on probation or you're out on parole. Out on probation, you likely didn't go to TDCJ, you just got probation services here, but out on parole, they released 3,080 persons back to Tarrant County on parole in fiscal year 2023. So that $64,000 won't go far, and I'm hopeful that somehow the DA's office and others will come up with more money to provide more services. This does not tie, I think there is a contract. From the governor's office, you get some money. It would be helpful for us to know how much money total is available to spend on these people and what it's for. Please sign this contract, send your pittance, but I would very much appreciate greater consideration going forward to more help for these people. Thank you.
Is Ms. Glasscock here? No. Okay. All right, that's all we have signed up for item 3. I do believe we have a motion and a second. Am I correct? Okay. Any further discussion? All right, please cast your vote. All right, that passes unanimously. Next up is item 4.
Item 4, we are seeking the Commissioners Court consideration for the FY 2024 contract between Tarrant County and MHMR of Tarrant County to provide mental health services to inmates in the Tarrant County jail system.
Move for approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve this item. Any questions for Megan or discussion before we invite speakers? All right, first speaker is Julie Griffin. Following Ms. Griffin is Nan Terry.
Good morning. I'm speaking on behalf of the beneficiaries of this contract, those with mental illness and IDD in the jail. Yes, sign this contract for them. But let's be clear what we are doing. Institutionalizing the jail as our mental health hospital in Tarrant County. Data from Tarrant County and Texas Health and Human Services shows up to 50% of the bookings at the jail each month are those with CCQ matches. That is, they are already in the MHMR system for having had treatment and diagnosis for mental illness or IDD within the previous 3 years. 50%. The raw number is approximately 1,600 per month. This does not even capture those presenting with mental illness for the first time. With these numbers, our existing remedies, the mobile crisis units and the Mental Health Jail Diversion Center, are mere Band-Aids and not even. Fund and build right-leveled treatment facilities for before, not after, these folks get to jail. How can we do this right now? 1, provide housing with true wraparound services. Kudos to Fort Worth for considering the pilot for persons with severe mental illness who are on the streets to get them psychiatric care, treatment, and housing. The county should also fund innovations. For example, 2, create what we don't have. Structured residential settings appropriately medically staffed and secure where folks in acute crisis can go and where their families and officers can take them. This is true crisis respite. 3, fill up the mental health jail diversion center. Why are we still prosecuting standalone criminal trespass cases? How many of our jail deaths have been persons with mental illness? This year, there have already been 2. Let's remember Harold Kent Roberts, 63, and Ronald Reese, 32. Mr. Roberts died in the jail last month, 1 week out from having his competency restored by the state hospital after more than 3 years in the jail system. Mr. Reese died by hanging himself in his jail cell this month. Both suffered from mental illness. Neither needed to die in jail custody. In sum, with nearly half our jail bookings being those with MI or IDD, we need to build mental health facilities with true emergency crisis respite. If we can ask the feds to fund $10 million for a law enforcement training facility firing range, we can ask them for $10 million for mental health facilities. And we can rearrange our current spending for front-end care instead of back-end jail services for true safety and care for the whole community. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Good morning. I want to thank MHMR for continuing to provide services since this contract ended to maintain the level of care that our citizens require. I request the Commissioners Court to approve all 4 contracts today so that MHMR can be reimbursed for services already provided. Perhaps in the future, we could meet with staff to suggest amendments to these contracts. One example is to specify that family members can provide credible information, especially regarding the medication of detained individuals. It's interesting, people tell me things. I know of several situations where family members told staff at the jail about medicines their loved ones needed, yet their voices were not heard. One's voices was heard only after KERA reported the story. Of the 65 deaths in the jail since 2017, several include inmates missing medicines. Perhaps amendments to this contract could help prevent unneeded deaths or illnesses or further decompensation due to lack of medicine. In addition, the handout you have, I'd like to add 16.22 to be addressed in these contracts. The attachment shows what the Texas Commission on Judicial Standards suggests as a step-by-step process for compliance. Please review this with an eye to the mental health alert system that several of us have requested that you fund and implement. Please approve these contracts today and assure payment is expedited to reimburse MHMR for services provided in good faith. Thank you.
All right, that's all we have signed up to speak to that item. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, please cast your vote. All right, that passes unanimously. Move to item 5.
This is seeking consideration for the FY 2024 contract between Tarrant County Hospital District, and MHMR of Tarrant County for countywide behavioral health and intellectual disability services.
Move approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve this item. Any discussion there? All right, please cast your vote. Passes unanimously. Next is item 6.
This is the last of the 4. This is seeking consideration of the FY 2024 contract between Tarrant County and Tarrant County Hospital District for funding of specified county services. This is the overarching contract.
Move approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve item 6. Any questions for Megan? I'll take care of it. Okay. Any questions, discussion from the commissioners? Any questions for Megan? Okay. All right, so our speaker is Ms. Cox.
This item purports to be a description of how funds from the hospital district will be used to reimburse items of expense, both for the Public Health Department and for MHMR. It refers to an agreement to pay the hospital district gives $21 million to Tarrant County, and Tarrant County is to direct $13 million to the Public Health Department and to give MHMR $7,921,759. So you're taking money from the hospital district to pay for social services in the jail, and this $7,921 appears also to be the same $7,921 that is referred to in item 4. And out of that $7,921, only $855,000 is for current services, and some of it seems to be applied to services that began in August of 2022 and carried forward. So we're somehow managing to use money from the hospital district appropriated for current years to pay off old bad debts to MHMR for services delivered at the jail. I find that to be unusual as a matter of bookkeeping and accounting for where money goes, but that is how it's described in your little remarks. So I would say, basically it's mental health services for inmates housed in the jail, $7,921. And over in what was described in Exhibit 4, you say, yeah, so out of that $7,921, only $855,000 is for services to be delivered in fiscal 24. And I remind you that fiscal 24 began last October 1st. So I'm asking that you pay greater attention to getting MHMR paid, because those people put their lives at risk as well, and also to the funding and the way your bookkeeping works. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second on this item. Any further discussion? All right, please cast your vote. All right, passes unanimously, which brings us to Budget and Risk Management, item C1.
Good morning, Court. We're asking approval for items related to appropriation adjustments that are open for discussion.
Move approval.
All right, I'll second it. So we have a motion and a second to approve item C1. Any discussion? All right, please cast your vote. All right, passes unanimously. And now we have item C3 removed from consent.
And we're seeking approval for authorization to apply for an earmark with Congresswoman Kay Granger.
Yes, I pull that simply to compliment the staff for acknowledging, or somebody, I don't know if it was the sheriff's office or the sheriff, but I take this as acknowledgement that we have been vastly underperforming in our federal appropriations requests in recent years. This is a new era, and so I want to ensure that all priorities are taken into account. So let's take a historic look. I asked the county staff to contextualize our earmark requests from the last few years against other counties, and here's what I got back. So over the last 3 years since Congress reauthorized earmarks, Harris County has received $116 million in appropriations for their priorities. Travis County has received close to $3 million in that time. Bexar County, the apparent laggard of the group, managed to pull $1.3 million in for their projects. So where does Tarrant County stand? I don't even have to look at my notes. In that same period, Tarrant County received exactly $0 in earmarks. So that's $0 that Tarrant County taxpayers did not benefit from in funding projects or priorities here in our community, and that needs to change. And so it looks like we're making the change, and I appreciate whosever decision it was. I think it was the sheriff and probably Commissioner Ramirez that said, hey, let's go after this. So just wanted to point that out.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve this.
Second.
We have a second. Any other discussion amongst members? All right, we have two speakers. Nan Terry. Following Ms. Terry is Laura Lehman.
Thank you. We mentioned that, I think, receiving data from an open records request for HHSC, and I apologize because we are still looking at it and reviewing it. But one of the important things it shows is that between January 1st of 22 and last summer, 50% of those booked at the Tarrant County Jail have some type of mental illness that have been served in the last 3 years by a mental MHMR or their state equivalent across the state. It also includes those under 18 with intellectual developmental disabilities. That's 50%. So given that HAC indicates 50% of the bookings at the jail have some type of mental illness, it might be better to ask for funds for a behavioral mental health crisis respite center instead of a law enforcement training center. Instead of building a law enforcement training center, I think it would be easier to find and keep staff if we could house those with mental illnesses elsewhere. When I think of people who choose to work in law enforcement, and then I think of those who choose to work with individuals suffering from mental illness, I don't necessarily think of the same personality traits. Both are important, but they're not necessarily the same. Please compare the funds you have approved today. $10 million, you're requesting $10 million for the Law Enforcement Training Center, $7.9 million for mental health services in the jail for a year, $645,000 for the RAP program. And this being Representative Granger's last year in office, with her knowledge of local issues, including individuals with mental illness and suffering from homelessness, she might be willing to approve an emergency respite center for those in mental health crisis, which would decrease the population of the jail and help with our staffing. I urge you to consider that. Thank you.
Morning. My name is Laura Lehman. I live in Precinct 3. When I first saw this item on the agenda and didn't have any idea what it was, I did some research, wanting to better understand it, and what I found disappointed me. My research told me that appropriations, better known as earmarks, are an important tool that municipalities can use to get projects funded with federal assistance. The process is pretty straightforward. You search for a friendly congressperson and convince them to insert a sentence or two about your project in the gargantuan appropriations bill that funds the federal government. And once the bill passes, the federal money flows into your community for that priority. I understand that other counties and cities have done great things with appropriations. In West Virginia, for example, an earmark approved by Senator Capito provided $750,000 for a greenhouse program to help recovering addicts. The produce grown went to support people in food need in the region. And Representative Lee in the Houston area supported an earmark to fund an expansion of ADA-compliant, LEED-certified low-income housing. These are inspiring uses of earmarks. They are grounded in community and need, and similar to how this previous court initially envisioned using ARPA funds following an extensive community needs survey. What I find not to be an inspiring potential use of an earmark, however, is throwing $10 million at building a brand new law enforcement training center that no one in the community requested. And mind you, 3 existing training facilities are within 20 minutes of the sheriff's office already. I'll also remind you that you are already funding the LETC by diverting federal ARPA money which the community had clearly signaled should be used for other priorities. What makes this even worse is that my understanding is that this first earmark this court has bothered to ask for in years. You have let years go by seemingly without asking for anything, presumably while your peer counties raked in what they could with their residents, or for their residents. And yet this year, when finally asking, you have the good fortune to have the request to go to a powerful congresswoman who is retiring, presumably, that really increases your odds of getting this money. It seems like a golden opportunity. And yet, you seem content to squander it with a project completely disconnected from the community. Uninspiring.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve item C3. Any further discussion?
Yes. I applaud the fact that we have discovered congressionally directed funding, which is the politically correct name for earmarks. It's a good thing for us to seek funding for our priority projects from all of our governmental partners, which include both the federal and state governments. The fact about this particular earmark request is that it doesn't happen to be a priority of mine. So I may or may not vote for it. When he calls for the vote, I'll make my decision. Mental health services in Tarrant County should be our #1 priority. But the fact is that while Tarrant County and JPS Health Network are doing our parts to provide additional resources for those with mental illnesses in Tarrant County, our governmental partners, the feds and the state, are not doing their share. The presence of mentally ill persons in our county jail is a huge drain on local taxpayers. That load ought to be shared by our governmental partners. But the fact is that there are so many persons in our county jail waiting for competency restoration so that they can be tried and sent to the Texas Department of Corrections, that every additional bed we build will go not to the chronically mentally ill in our community, but will go towards competency restoration for those in the county jail so that we can try them and send them to the penitentiary. There's got to be a better way. And I would urge my colleagues on this commissioner's court to let us sit down and seriously take a look at what we're doing in regards to mentally ill persons in our county jail and see if we can't come up with some viable options. Number one, that we can interest our governmental partners in helping us to achieve. And failing that, prioritizing our local tax dollars to ease the burden of caring for those persons in the jail when we should be looking at other institutional or community-based alternatives to incarceration.
All right, other comments or questions? All right, seeing none, we have a motion and a second to approve item C3. With no further discussion, please cast your vote. All right, that passes unanimously. All right, next we move to D5, removed from consent.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Seek approval of the housing system payment contract and amendments between the landlord and Tarrant County Housing.
All right, any questions from the court members?
Move approval.
All right, we have a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a second. All right, we have a speaker.
I have a question for
Okay.
Mr. Pollard.
Yes, sir.
Wayne, what will this actually do?
Pay the landlords for this month. I mean, right now, the contracts, this is for our payments, monthly payments. It's just the mid-month for this month.
This is an interim funding.
Yeah, exactly, yes,
Okay.
just for this month only.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we do have a speaker, Mr. Bennett.
I apologize for the delay, Dan Bennett. I just meant, last time I spoke was to say that you have a group you can sample from. I don't know exactly if, what ideas that they could come forward with that Ms. Simmons could take to Tampa. You have between now and July 12th to send a letter out to all these landlords saying what would increase our inventory for the homeless? What can we do? And then maybe get some feedback from them or maybe give them ideas that they can choose from. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I think I heard a motion on this. I don't know if I heard a second.
You did.
I did, okay. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, please cast your vote. All right, passes unanimously. That was D5. Now we move to H1, Human Resources.
Good morning. We are looking for approval of two items this morning. The first is approval of a waiver of terminal benefits for elections. They have a voting equipment technician position that was vacated in February with 271 hours of vacation at that time. Time has since passed, so we are now requesting a waiver of 167 hours with a net savings to the general fund of approximately $5,200, including fringe.
Second.
We have a motion to approve. We have a second. Any discussion there? All right, please cast your vote. All right, passes unanimously. Next, we have item A2, which is removed from consent.
This is a request for approval of changes to the TOs for the Administrator's Office and budget. This would retitle and move a criminal justice manager position from the Administrator's Office to the Budget Office as a senior budget analyst. There's no fiscal impact associated with this item. It's a lateral move.
Move approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve this item. Any discussion?
Yes. I'm not in favor of approving this today, simply because I haven't been briefed on it. So I have concerns about it. And you called my office, not you, but staff called my office yesterday to schedule a conversation about this. And it that conversation is going to take place Thursday. So I've repeatedly expressed a desire to county staff to establish a jail population monitoring position in either the criminal courts administration or in county administration. I've expressed that desire because I've talked to colleagues throughout the state in other counties who have such positions, and it sounds like we have one such position, but we're moving it or getting rid of. I haven't been briefed, so I don't know what the duties and responsibilities will be. So, hell, I can't vote for it today until y'all brief. Have the rest of y'all been briefed on this?
So, I mean, I can give a high level. Just so philosophically.
I've been in my office, I go every day. I have not been briefed on it.
Yes, ma'am. So philosophically, this position in the past was used for certain things, and I have a belief that anything performance or data analytics, which in my mind, jail population monitoring is data analytics and performance. We're wanting to house that in the budget office. So there's going to be some other moves probably through the budget process to talk through that more as far as how we're monitoring data and making recommendations to the court. We don't really have a good centralized system to show the court justification for data such as things like this, or if take-home vehicles come up or things like that. So
Tell me about it.
Yes, ma'am. So the goal is to house that function in the budget office, and with the timeliness, if you will, of this position being vacant, with what Helen is preparing for the fiscal 25 budget, we felt this was an appropriate time to move that position under her so she could start using it not only for fiscal 25, but also to continue the work that Holly did, who previously had this position with regards to jail analytics and things like that. So the budget office actually has another position now that also monitors criminal justice information such as magistration sessions and things like that. So in a sense, it's complementing some of the work that's already going on in the budget office.
Is there urgency to adopting this today? Can it be put off until Commissioner Simmons can be briefed?
I certainly have no concern with that. If you don't, if we want to bring it back next meeting, do you have any concern, Helen?
So this would give us an additional position and to work on the FY25 budget. Any delay, I'm not opposed to delaying it, but just any delay would delay that person, another person coming in and learning how to work on this current year's budget.
Do you have a person in mind?
So it's going to be posted. I am hoping that we get the right candidate to apply for it. And the functions will stay the same. They still will be doing all of the functions that are currently being done in the administrator's office. That won't go away. We're just going to add to it so that we're collaborating together. As Mr. Merritt said, we already have someone that combines all of the data, the population, the number of people being brought in daily, and the magistration and all of the dockets of magistration. This would make it more cohesive with the information that we want to be able to present.
The reason I asked if you had someone in mind in the administrator's office was I would propose a compromise that we delay taking a vote on this until the next meeting. Meanwhile, Mr. Merritt can lend you that employee that you have your eye on, and they can start to work in your office pending a vote by this court.
I don't know of any employee in the administrator's office that's applying for this position.
All right.
All right, right, so
So
just
how
so I'm
is-
clear here, we have a motion for this, and we have a second. Is that accurate? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I was just going to say how this goes is you brief folks before you ask them to vote for something. I mean, I have a ton of questions about this once I saw it on the agenda. So I'm a little upset that I'm glad you guys were briefed, but
Well, so let me clarify. You asked if we were briefed. I said yes, meaning I picked up the phone, called Helen, and said, "What is this?" So
well,
that's.
they called my office yesterday to schedule a meeting. So
Okay.
have you
And
scheduled meetings?
the meeting that we scheduled is not regarding this position. That is regarding another conversation.
We just talked about this in my office.
And I explained that it was another conversation.
All right, we have a motion and a second on this item. Unless that's withdrawn, we're going to take a vote. So any other comments or questions on this issue? All right, we have a motion and a second, so please cast your vote. All right, it passes 4-1.
Thank you.
All right, next up is something. Next up is item I-1, which is, how you doing? Good. Got up there quick. You could almost tell it was coming, yeah. Purchase of mail opener system in the tax office.
Good morning. First item is a request for approval for the purchase of mail opener and opener for the tax office.
Move approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve this item. Any discussion? All right, please cast your vote. No. We have a speaker on this item. Is this what you wanted to talk about, Mr. Berner?
No, I'm going to pass on this one. I've asked to sign up for all of them under I, but I'm just going to pass.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second with no further discussion. Please cast your vote. All right.
The last item is request of approval to take bids for items A and B.
Move approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to grant permission to take bids and issue RFPs. Any discussion there? All right, please cast your vote. Passes unanimously. Next up, from consent, we have item K2. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. All right, K2 is an amendment to a contract between Tarrant County Sheriff's Office and Tarrant County College to provide welding and business classes to inmates housed in the Tarrant County Jail. We have one person signed up to speak to this.
Move approval.
All right, we have a motion to approve and a second. Mr. Bennett.
Dan Bennett, White Settlement. Back on, whenever this was, February 26th, I had jury duty. And the pool came in, got dismissed, everybody got $20. It happened to Mr. Burnham on October 30th, and it's been happening quite often. I won't go into why I think that's happening, but more importantly, you can donate your $20. Well, the only things you can donate that to is Tarrant County Child Welfare Board, Crime Victims Compensation Fund, and Veterans Court. Well, back in July of 22, when I started going to all the Tarrant County College meetings, I didn't believe we were using our resources appropriately. Matter of fact, one of the candidates actually who won and took over part of her platform was to bring those services not only to recidivism in the juvenile district, but also to veterans, because veterans are committing suicide and they have veterans court. And she was saying she thought part of their adjudication should be they should take classes, and if they actually get a certificate or get a degree, an associate degree, or whatever it might be, that they would complete their adjudication, but you had to pay for it. Well, you can do it through veterans benefits, but the ones that are indigent, that can't afford, because in this policy it says they'll take welding classes, but in order to get your certificate, once you're released, It's up to you, and then you have to go through the traditional sources. Well, that's difficult when you can't even navigate the system. So what I like to see is add, in addition to this jury ticket where you can donate your $20. I think this would be a worthwhile fund to put it aside. And when they do get out of jail, we can help them continue by giving money donated by the public. Now, I ran into a gentleman who was trying to pay, actually setting up a payment plan at the 396 Court, Gallagher. I walked upstairs with him. I was here after I got a jury duty. I actually came over to your office, Judge. Well, what happened was I wanted to go take my $20 and pay on his bond or his payment. So we walked across the street to the old courthouse. I talked to Steve French. I had a check drawn on the county, giving it to a county entity, and they couldn't take the payment. They wouldn't let me sign it, give my ID, and credit this gentleman's account. I didn't need the money. I wanted to give it away. I still have not cashed that check. What I want is that to be the first check that you guys put a line item in the budget. I want to bring that check to your office. I want to endorse it. I want my $20 going in that account to help nonviolent offenders who have C misdemeanors be able to get out of jail using the money I donate, or to continue their education at the college. So I want 2 additional items added to my choices. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that is an excellent idea. And I hope we can take some action on that soon.
All right, we have.
I know my time's up, Mr. Brooks, but I'm bringing in my check. I'm going to endorse it and give it to your office.
Don't give it to me.
All right, we have a motion and a second on this item. Any further discussion? All right, please cast your vote. All right, passes unanimously, which now brings us to board appointments. Do we have any appointments to any boards, commissions, or committees? All right, seeing none, do we have any announcements or comments, Commissioners Court? All right, we will now move to public comments. First person signed up is Lon Burnham. Second person is Mr. Bennett.
Good morning again. First, I want to start with a thank you to the minister for the prayer that he gave today. I know he's not here, but I want to lift up some of his comments in that prayer. He talked about hoping that county leaders would be open to and respectful the comments of citizens that appear before you. I thought that was a really nice touch. And I hope the sheriff was listening, because one of your county elected officials probably was more in need of that prayer than others. What am I speaking about? I was one of the 4 speakers that was called unpatriotic for challenging the sheriff's proposal to sell confiscated weapons. We were further attacked for not understanding the Second Amendment of the Bill of Rights. I would have responded to those outrageous comments at your previous Commissioner's Court 2 weeks ago, but I was busy performing my patriotic duty helping conduct the elections, a task that I have requested hundreds of people to undertake. As for the Bill of Rights, I want to refer you to the First Amendment, the one in which we are guaranteeing freedom of speech. Like all rights, there are necessary regulations on any and all of them. For example, on the freedom of speech, it's illegal to yell fire in a theater. It is patriotic to appear before a public body and call to their attention what you think is bad public policy. It is my patriotic duty to call to your attention again and again that you frequently vote for bad public policy at the request of the sheriff. There was an unnecessary death in your jail since your last Commissioner Court meeting. When are you going to ask the sheriff to appear before this court at your first meeting following each and every death to give an interim report? It is time for this court to stop approving every requested junket by the sheriff and demand an explanation for his ongoing problems with unnecessary deaths in the jail. Thank you for your time. I consider myself a patriot.
All right, Mr. Bennett, and then following Mr. Bennett is Billy Wilson.
I want to talk about the appraisal district. I had a meeting with the chief appraiser on February 12th. And I asked Mr. Jodan Bobbitt prior to that meeting if I could invite some elected officials. So I put invitation out to 17 elected officials, different various taxing entities. I would have invited Ms. Simmons, but she was in Washington, D.C. And 14 of the 17 posted, had a full room. And then someone invited themselves, Mr. Vince Puente, your nominee. In my direct communication with the chief appraiser, I specifically said no appointed people in the room. And there was a specific reason for that. Under 6.15, they cannot talk to the chief appraiser about any particular appraisal, indirectly or directly. It's in the property tax code. I told Mr. Bobbitt to text Mr. Puente, because he told me he was on his way, to tell him to turn around and go home, or go from which he came. So he shows up about 4 minutes and 52 seconds late. I asked him to leave. Much like I came down here to Judge Whitley when they decided to table. Remember that, Mr. Wynn? Mike Lehman was going to be voted on, and Judge Whitley tabled that. And Andy, when he was sitting in Ms. Simmons' seat, couldn't understand why he tabled. That day I asked Judge Whitley, I said, vote. Well, they chose the table, and guess what? We changed the law. Now, you guys in that election have to go first. Used to be able to go last, but he was not a good steward of the community. And we were able to expose that and fix it. I've been trying to fix this appraisal district because there's processes there that the community and the public must adhere to. Well, there's also rules for the directors. What Mr. Vince Puente did by staying after being told by the chief appraiser not to come, and by me telling him to leave, was rude and I think arbitrary. Even Mr. Burnham was there. He said, I'm offended and I think your behavior is rude. He actually interrupted the meeting. So when Mayor Halsey, one of the participants, went to go talk about the neighborhood adjustment factor, which he and I had all this scripted, is something that he wanted to talk to his community about. He talked about his individual appraisal. So under 6.155, he was solid. So that's a Class C misdemeanor. So now I ask this board, are we going to treat Mr. Puente as we did Michelle Moore and Todd Carlton of Carroll ISD, where they were handcuffed? If truly he made a misdemeanor, I'm not saying he did, it needs to be investigated. I asked the white collar crime unit during the trial of John Wright and Mike Campbell to reach out, and they told me to go to a local authority. You needed to know what happened. That's your nominee. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wilson?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Happy first day of spring.
Is that today?
Wrong-headed. A statement that my father used to describe when people would be doing something that was obvious to us was just not working. Wrong-headed. Tarrant County Jail is wrong-headed and is in need of new leadership. Current leadership seems to be focused on incarceration instead of decarceration. $365,000 for 3 people, 3 new hires, $10 million for a new unit, selling guns, voter integrity. I don't think those came from the citizens. Focusing on the symptoms while ignoring the disease. I've been coming to this court now for about a year, and it's become obvious to me that mental illness is the disease and the jail population is the symptoms. We need leadership who understands and cares for a cure for this. I found that listening to the community prior to decisions are being made are more effective. We also ask that you take the time to talk to your community. the families of the inmates and your partners to develop a comprehensive plan to front load services before these people are being incarcerated. Let's have a town hall. I appreciate what you said. We need to talk and come up with a comprehensive plan for how we're going to deal with our citizens before they get to our jails. To deal with mental health of our citizens, we need to focus on the diversion of low-level drug users, our mental retarded, and our IDD. And by doing this, we will address the overcrowding of the jail and the personnel issues that you're having, and it will help to address our homeless, our unhoused issues. Mental health must be addressed. If we implement these things, then we would be what I would call a right-headed democracy. Because in a right-headed democracy, leadership listens to the people, communicate with your partners, and come up with comprehensive plans before you spend money on things that do not work. And so we ask that you continue to join with us, that you talk with us, that we can come up with issues. Because my year of being here, I've met a lot of really intelligent people who know how to do some things. And if we can just listen and work together, we can work through this problem, we can decrease the population, and we won't need to hire as many personnel. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that's all we have signed up to speak. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak? All right. Seeing none, please remain silent while I read the following. The Commissioners Court will now recess the open session and proceed to closed session to discuss items exempt under Sections 551, 071, 072, 074, 076, 087, and 0725 of the Texas Government Code. We are now in recess. Open session, so we are officially adjourned. Have a good week. There we are. Okay. We went to bed. Risky.